Hey, it's Jim from Radio Wasteland Records. Earlier this year, we bought a huge collection that's loaded with rare and obscure psychedelic rock. Now join us as we go through these boxes and unearth some psych rock treasures. So welcome once again to Psyche Rock Spot. I'll tell you what, this is going to be a very interesting journey. As I mentioned at the top of the episode, we're going to be going through these boxes from the collection that we brought in. And as I unearth these rare and tremendously obscure psych rock albums, we'll learn about them together. I'm by no means an expert in psychedelic rock. I would defer to others with much more knowledge, someone like Bill Young from the Michigan Record Club, who knows a lot more about this than I. But I'm willing to learn, and that's what this series of videos are all going to be about. So as I find these records and scratch my head and go through Discogs to identify the specific pressings that we've got, I think we'll discover some very, very rare ones indeed. So let's start things off with about as psychedelic and as trippy as you can possibly get. And that is from a German group named Can. Now Discogs calls them an experimental rock band, and they formed in Cologne, Germany in 1968. Originally, they were named Inner Space, but changed that to The Can when they were joined by an American vocalist named Malcolm Mooney. So now that the name is settled on The Can, or simply just Can, the band began producing albums in 1969 with Monster Movie. That one, by the way, was recently reissued, as many of these others that we're going to talk about have been in recent years. Now, so far, unearthed in the boxes in our collection are albums 4, 5, and 6, starting off with probably one of their better-known ones, Egi Bamayasi. This is one that has been requested several times. Folks have come to the store asking if we can find the reissue of it, and finding an original is actually fairly difficult. I've never seen an OG of this come through before. And of the three that we have unearthed, this is by far the most valuable. Sadly, ours is not a 1972 first pressing, but it is a 1973 reissue, and according to the Discogs sales statistics, it still fetches anywhere between $130 to $250, depending upon the condition. Now the music, as I mentioned, is very trippy. It is psychedelic rock, but it has this very strong element of experimental music strung throughout. In fact, the band had cited as some of their main influences the Beatles and the Velvet Underground, but also artists like Sly Stone, Jimi Hendrix, and Frank Zappa. And that's what really kind of shows up in here. Along with that psych rock experimental sound, you've got this funk undertone throughout, especially in songs like Spoon, which is one of the biggest hits off of this. Also popping up in our collection is 1974's Future Days. This is the band's fifth album, but it continues with that psychedelic experimental funk sound. This is a first pressing, and it does, according to Discogs, fetch anywhere between $60 to $130, again depending upon condition. And finally, the third Can album found in this collection is 1975's Soon Over Babaluma. Again, electronic rock, krautrock, experimental with that underpinning of funk throughout. Babaluma is a little less valuable than the other two that we've talked about, coming in somewhere between $25 and $90 on the high end, according to Discogs. Now, there may be more Can albums in the collection that I haven't found yet, but so far, these three are going to give me a really good start into opening up doors to this whole psychedelic krautrock experimental with a side of funk music that they've got going on throughout. So that will do it for this premiere episode of Psyche Rock Spot. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and make sure you enable notifications. Psyche Rock Spot is not going to be a regularly scheduled segment, as I'm just going to create these as I unearth rare and interesting psych rock albums. But don't worry, there are a lot of rare and interesting psych rock albums for us yet to get to. From Radio Wasteland, I'm Jim Gleason. Thanks for watching.